To solve a polynomial inequality, we need to follow these 3 steps I've written on the side. First, we must have one side equal to 0. Second, factor and find the zeros. Third, make a number line to answer. So let's start with the first step. So we must have a 0 on one side. So currently we have 4 on the other side of the inequality. So let's move that 4 to the left side with the x squared and minus 5 to make it x squared minus 5 minus 4. Then if we simplify, we will get x squared minus 9, which leads us into our next step, factor and find the zeros. So we can actually factor x squared minus 9 using the difference of squares, which would just be x plus 3 and x minus 3. And if we were to just take each of these different groups and make it equal to 0, our zeros would just be x is equal to minus 3 and 3. So now our final step is to make a number line. And when we make the number line, what you want to do is you want to put your zeros or the x values that we found on this number line. And what we're going to do is we're going to test values on each part of the number line to find whether it satisfies the inequality right now, which is saying it has to be greater than 0, or positive. Let's plot the values -3 and on the other side 3. So one thing I want to mention before we continue, in this inequality, there's no bar under the inequality. So that means whatever our benchmark is, which is -3 and 3, when we describe it at the end, we won't be including them. So for example, we wouldn't be using square brackets, we would be using circle brackets. And one way to remember is whenever you're making the number line, you would do a circle, which is saying not including -3 or 3. So now let's test each part of the number line to determine what range or intervals of numbers satisfy the inequality, which is saying where in this equation, where is it greater than 0 or where is it positive. So let's start on the very left side. Let's take the number -4, for example. And if we were to substitute that into the equation, we're going to get 2 negatives. And that would just mean a positive. So now we know that numbers from -infinity until -3, but not including 3, will satisfy the equation. So now let's try between -3 and +3. So if I was to substitute, for example, 0 into the equation, we're going to get 1 positive and 1 negative. So that means it will be a negative, and this cannot be part of our equation because our inequality states it has to be greater than 0 or positive. So now let's focus on the very right side now. If we were to choose, for example, 10 and substitute it into the equation, we're going to get 2 positives. So that means from 3, but not including 3, to positive infinity, we're going to be able to use any of those numbers. So that area works. So now we need to write a statement which describes all of this. So we would say, therefore, x is an element of numbers that range from -infinity to -3, but not including 3, combined with 3, but not including 3 to infinity, positive infinity. If this video helped, please consider liking and subscribing.